Hello everyone, welcome to the weekly update video for the 15th of August. Relatively quiet week, but there's a few things I wanted to talk about. A product release and then just an update on how the event went. The product release is Pro ATC. So Pro ATC came to fs2020. It's now been called Pro ATC SR, or I guess maybe a senior. The main standout feature is that it now has speech recognition so that you can actually speak to the ATC, and also it has the ability to interface, of course, with fs2020, which in itself was new. Now, obviously for blind pilots this isn't massive because 2020 itself has more underlying issues for us. I think it's good for everyone else who may have sight, though I really do like Pro ATC. It's probably the best program that I've tried. The voice set's the most disappointing feature, but I find that it does at least interface with Navigraph, and it seems to give pretty good vectors onto the ILS or whatever. So it's a pretty good program, and I would recommend anyone new to pick it up. It might help you out, especially if you're looking at getting into something like vatsim. This is a great point to start because you are flying procedures, and it tends to be that I even use it if I am going to a new airport and I want to, maybe there's an event on vatsim, I'll do a test flight with Pro ATC before sometimes, because it actually follows the correct procedures. In P3D it's relatively accessible, especially once you've started a flight, because you can easily get to the in-flight menu with Control 0. Whether that's the case in 2020, I don't know. I will say I was pretty disappointed with their pricing structure. They've basically said that it's going to become 59 euros, which in my opinion is very expensive for an ATC program. But setting that aside, depending on when you bought it, you will get various discounts, which you can read on their site. But I just think that's really silly personally, because if I was to say purchase this, I think I purchased Pro ATC back in 2020, I would get less of a discount, despite the fact that technically, I've been a loyal user of Pro ATC. I just think that's silly. Me personally, I think if you're going to offer a discount, you should just offer it for everyone who may have purchased it. Perhaps you could say you have to apply for the discount, just send your serial, and that's it. You get your discount. I don't really agree with the fact that you get it depending on how long you've owned it. Someone could have literally bought it a few months back for P3D and now they get more of a discount than me, which I personally don't like that model. Obviously won't be buying it myself at the moment until 2020 is fixed properly and we can actually fly in it with some level of realism or accessibility, but I thought I'd let you know it's out there, and that's good to know. I know FS HUD is out for 2020 and P3D as well, so that's a good competitor. And I do like these AI ATC programs. I think there's obviously the procedures, the voices, the ambience are the features that make it an ATC program, as well as AI interaction. And Pro ATC hasn't got really the voices, but it does have the procedures, and it does that very well. So how did the event go? Well, this was the TFM anniversary event on Saturday. It went very well, pretty much. Everyone pretty much got to San Francisco with a few problems. It was pretty windy there. I had some kind of problem with my simulator, so that on touchdown, we touched down and went a little down the runway, and then the simulator reloaded me back in the air, which was very interesting. I think I know why. I think somehow the freeze aircraft feature got activated or something, but something strange went wrong. But I mean, we touched down, everyone got to San Francisco, and I think it was a good event. I want to thank well, I say everyone got there, everyone who actually did the flight. There were a few people who weren't able to get off the ground, which I want to talk about in a second, but everyone who did the flight, I think Johnny had some issues as well, but everyone made it pretty much, and the ATC was really great. We had a lot of ATC actually. Miami approach, that controller is on a lot. I forget, I don't know his name, I'll have to find out, but he's a very good controller. He does Miami Center as well, and the centers we had along the way, and then San Francisco Tower was on and they were very good, very understanding of all the repositioning and any issues that happened, and they were, you know, they were just really nice to work with. So there you go. What I did want to talk about, and you know, I'm not going to name names here, but there was an incident out of Miami where a blind pilot had loaded up on the runway, and the controller asked him, you know, because he'd just come on, you know, what are you doing? And this pilot was sat on the runway for about 10 minutes setting up his aircraft, and I think had been on the runway before that, and then took off, and everyone had to wait behind this pilot. Please don't do that. That is terrible vatsim etiquette, and really, to be honest, that pilot should have been kicked. You know, I was busy doing things on my aircraft, but to be honest, I was very tempted to not wallop this pilot, and to be honest, please don't fly on. You know, just don't do that. That is terrible etiquette. You have to learn what you're doing before you go on vatsim. You cannot load and set up your plane on a runway. And the reason it concerns me so much is because we already have a procedure where we reposition to the runway. If controllers start getting confused and think we're trying to set up the plane on the runway, we're really going to have issues. This controller was very understanding, and, you know, allowed this pilot to sit on the runway for 5 to 10 minutes and then take off, whilst everyone else, you know, was sat waiting to use the runway. So yeah, that person didn't make it very far in the air. They had more issues, but please don't do that. Please just be careful. I'm not saying it to call out any one individual. I'm just pointing it out as one example of how the BVI community can be thrown into a bad light on vatsim through the actions of one person. It makes controllers think we're doing things that we actually aren't. There's no need to load on a runway. You load up at a gate, and you can easily see as a blind pilot, even with right bracket shift C, where you're at. You literally have to choose where you load at on the P3D loading screen. So that is a really silly thing, and yeah, to be honest, that person just should have been kicked off. You know, luckily, like I say, that controller was very, very understanding. You might not have had such a nice controller who may have told you to get the hell out of there, but luckily the controller was nice, and you know, just dealt with it in a calm way. And, you know, kudos to that controller. It was a really great controller out of Miami. But just to point that out, you know, please just watch what you're doing on vatsim. Don't do things like that. If you're having real issues, disconnect. vatsim have instituted a new code of conduct with certain changes, you know, basically saying, I won't go through the whole thing, you know, but they said you cannot use other frequencies for irrelevant chatter that's not relevant to your flight. So that means don't start having conversations on Unicom. They also said you need to be able to fly headings, speeds and altitudes, you know, direct to waypoints, and insert new waypoints even if it's not in your flight plan, etc. You need to follow those kind of instructions. Now, often controllers will be lenient with you. They're not going to dot wallop you if you aren't doing one of those things immediately, but you need to have those basic skills. And it's just kind of embarrassing for us if someone is just not able to do those basic things. So you know, programs like I've mentioned, like Pro ATC, are really great resources. You can practice your flights, get everything nailed down, make sure you know how to do all those things, because it's a very good program and does generally follow procedures. And then you can jump on vatsim, or do flights you know well on vatsim, or where there's less control. Loading up and setting a plane up on a runway at a major airport is just a big no-no for one, and the other things I mentioned you've got to be able to do as well. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, it was a good event, and we have other events coming up. The Cross the Land event on the 3rd of September from vatsim will be very fun. We're still waiting on slots to release for that. They were supposed to release on Sunday, but then something went wrong, and now they're releasing on Friday, this Friday. So if you're looking to get a slot, keep an eye on their Twitter, Discord, both of those, and you'll be able to figure out what time it's going to be and then get a slot. That'll be across Europe into the Middle East. So yeah, intending to do that. And we're also probably going to have a little BVI group flight on the what is it, I think it's Sunday the 28th in the evening time. So yeah, that'll be the BVI virtual. We'll release the details of that another time. It's nothing major, just sort of within BVI virtual, little group flight, since we do events kind of every few weeks. really, I think that's it. There's not been too much going on. If you're wondering about TFM, there's not been any update released in terms of weekly updates from them. So there's, you know, I can't tell you anything other than what they publicly say, and there's not been any progress updates issued. So there you go. And you know, they're going to be, I believe, doing a live stream later this week with a bit of a Q&A on their channel. So, you know, you can go over and watch them, but in terms of actual updates on the 7.3 progress, there hasn't been any issued this week. So other than that, hope you're having good flights and enjoying your summers. We obviously got back last week. I just uploaded the departure video from Corfu and landing into East Midlands, which was pretty nice, departing out of the island. I think it was pretty much toga departure. Really great sound on that departure. I love that buzzsaw. So yeah, if you want to go listen to that, or if you're excited, take a look at it, because it's probably going to be nice visually, then do so. And yeah, I don't know when the next stream will be, but it should be relatively soon. As always, just, you know, keep your notifications on, and then you'll know. You can follow on Twitter at @b_flightsimmer, where I post when I go live. blindflightsimmer44@gmail.com if you want to email me personally, and you can use the contact us form at bvipilots.net if you want to get more, you know, just contact the actual website through that way instead of contacting me as an individual. So there you go, and I hope you have a good week. We'll be back next Monday as always.